Allegations of rape, abuse, and other forms of sexual misconduct are mounting against movie mogul Harvey Weinstein, and his wife of a decade now says she is leaving him. Actresses Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie are now the latest women to come forward with accusations of harassment against him. They claim he made unwanted advances back in the 1990s. A spokesman for Weinstein says that he denies the rape allegations that are now coming out against him. Joining me this morning to talk more about sexual harassment is local attorney John Phillips. Good morning, John. Thanks for being here. Do appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Let's look specifically at Harvey Weinstein's case. We know, based on the report that was in the New York Times, that he has settled 8 sexual harassment lawsuits in the last several years. Considering that, is there any reason that those settlements can somehow be used against him if these rape accusations turn out to be true?
We saw some of this in Bill Cosby's case, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends on what the terms of that settlement were. If they had very severe confidentiality provisions, some of the women may be bound by that for fear of having to pay back money or having other sanctions against them. It really depends on what they and their attorneys negotiated originally. I suspect most will stick by the gag order. There could be a few brave souls that say, come and get me if you want. I want to let you know what he did and what he paid for.
Now, there are reports that this has been going on for decades. Considering that, statute of limitations would be an issue, correct me if I'm wrong then, if these turn criminal?
Correct. So those civil and criminal. Criminal would be when the state goes after you for jail time, essentially. And each state would have a different statute of limitations, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 4 years. It depends on whether he's being charged for battery or harassment or rape. And then there's civil statute of limitations on the same front. They vary by state. They vary by, this would largely be an intentional tort or a rape civil suit. And so it just depends. There have been cases that were set, by the priest allegations that have extended some of those statute of limitations where where the person was a minor. That's not really going on here necessarily. So it just depends. It's case by case.
How do you defend him? Let's say this was your client. This is tough because first we heard about these 8, and then, of course, they just started rolling in as soon as this hit earlier this week.
It's indefensible. It's not something that we would take, but everybody, I guess everybody deserves a lawyer, right? So he needs to just put his head down. He's talking his way through it, which is usually a mistake, justifying his conduct based upon what he was taught in the 50s and 60s. And that's the problem, right? We're all doing that. Donald Trump, put basically the same type stuff. Now, he didn't go this far. But when you're degrading women and treating women like they don't have equal rights, you're part of the problem, and you must stop. And hopefully enough of an example is set of him that people learn.
Now, it's interesting because I think this raises an issue also. What is sexual harassment, let's say, in the workplace as an example? For those of our viewers who are watching who hear something like this and wonder, you know what? I felt uncomfortable with my boss before in the past.
Certainly. Again, case-by-case basis. Most of it's governed by federal legislation, Title VII. And if you're a protected class, generally, women, elderly, minorities, they have certain rights that you cannot be harassed, you cannot be certainly coerced or threatened. And again, it's case by case and depends on how large the employer is. There's certain things that go into it. Natasha Hines with our office is excellent at doing that analysis and actually coached me up before this morning's show. But you're certainly not allowed to be coerced or required to do anything inappropriate or called names while you're work. People need to go to work and do the job, and bosses need to let them.
I'm trying to focus on your eyes and not the pink mustache.
Right.
All right, what's the story behind the pink mustache?
So obviously it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and normally I had the full beard, and we have a special family member going through it, breast cancer, and so I dedicated my mustache to her. And if I can deal with a couple weeks of inconvenience with what women who go through breast cancer go through, we're asking the public to give at pinklawyers.com, and we're currently number 10 in the nation.